Welcome to episode 11, everybody. It's gonna be a doozy. We're gonna have lots of fun. We're gonna talk about a ton of like filmmaking stuff. So we're gonna talk about different gear, different cameras, different films that we've seen, stuff that we're gonna maybe see in the future, and that they're really putting a lot of cool tech into. We're also gonna talk about cameras that are stealing your face data. That one's fun too.
It's my face.
And Star Wars.
Who am I? I'm Cole. This is my chin now.
If you know, you know.
Welcome to TRIFLIX Cast. We are professional videographers and photographers talking about the latest business practices, techniques, and tech with a little bit of fun sprinkled in. Welcome to episode 11. I am Cole. I'm the producer here at TRIFLIX. To my right is...
I'm Tristan. I gotta text someone right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
And to my left...
I'm David.
What
I'm
do you
not
do?
texting anybody right now.
Good for you, buddy.
I'm in the moment.
Somehow the three of us manage on a day-to-day basis to run a media company called TRIFLIX based out of Columbus, Indiana. This is our podcast.
Yeah, I equally manage this business as
He
the
does.
other two in this podcast.
He does 33 and a third. Just kidding.
Unofficially.
Unofficially.
I'm only a contractor.
Only.
A consultant contractor. I mean, legally.
All the above.
Yeah.
Legally, you have no contract.
Well, that's what is it? External, I guess, consultant then. Yeah.
So, like, people here to learn how to run a business because this is a bad start.
I know, right?
Wow.
That's
I don't
not. Well, I guess here, disclaimer. That's not one of these episodes. We're not going to talk about running a business today. We're going to talk about film. We're going to talk about filmmaking and production, and then eventually maybe talk about some privacy issues. But we'll get there. Just a second. So the first thing, if you don't know, a lot of times we start the episodes off with a news story, and I've got one. Are you guys familiar with the term goblin mode?
Wait.
No, don't look it up.
I'm not looking it up. Is it like goblin, like a turkey, or goblin as in like the creature?
Goblin.
Goblin.
I don't know
mode?
I don't know if that clears it up for you, but I want you guys to tell me what you think it means, and then I'll tell you. Which
I really want to hear Tristan's.
I
first.
guarantee you're not going to get it.
Yeah, it's like when you're sitting underneath of a little bridge and people walk by, and then you just come out and you start grabbing their ankles and going, give me.
Isn't that a troll?
Yeah, that is a troll, isn't
The
it?
troll lives under the bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
trolls
but they
under
call
the
it
bridge.
goblin because you go, I'm a goblin.
Goblin.
I'm not a troll, I'm a goblin.
I feel like I've heard people refer to them like, some days I'm just like a little goblin.
What does it mean, though?
I know,
so they say it, but what does it mean?
They say it, and I think from what I understand, it's kind of like you kind of feel like a weird introverted like creature, and like if you like open up the door and see them, you might be like, rah! Kind of like the off-put by socialization, like you might not know what you get type of thing.
Not far off base.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that you've never heard of this because I know you're on the Twitter. You're out there tweeting on the Twitter.
Yeah, you probably like goblin.
It's Kanye goblin.
So this is actually no. So you guys are familiar with Oxford Dictionary.
Okay.
Analytica.
Yes.
Yeah.
So goblin mode is actually Oxford's word or phrase of the year.
Really?
Yes, it actually says word of the year, which is weird because it's
Goblin
two.
mode.
But essentially, what it means, it's a type of behavior which is unapologetically self-indulgent, lazy, slovenly, or greedy, typically in a way that rejects social norms or expectations.
Oh, I love rejecting social norms.
But in part of this, it says it's mindlessly binge-watching television without worrying about the time. It's eating snacks in bed without a care about leftover crumbs.
No.
And it's wearing the same pair of pajamas all week while working from home.
Yeah.
No,
Welcome
I don't like
to Goblin Mode.
I don't like any of that, actually.
I envisioned literally like what college students do 90% of the time when they're not in class.
Goblin Mode.
Goblin mode. They're a whole bunch of goblins.
I don't like goblin mode. That sounds awful.
It does.
Is it the eating in bed part?
I don't like eating in bed. I don't like
either.
people that do it.
That's weird. It's like breakfast in bed. That sounds like a nightmare.
My wife's one of those people. Nightmare.
Nightmare.
It says the term first appeared on Twitter in 2009, but didn't go
Goblin
viral
mode.
until this year.
Yeah, I've seen people refer to themselves as like, yeah, I'm just a goblin. And it's kind of funny just to think about. Just people acting like a little goblin.
Interesting. So they actually vote. It says more than 300,000 people voted with an overwhelming majority, about 93% favoring goblin mode.
See, here's the thing.
The other two were metaverse and hashtag I stand with.
The type of people that would vote on a poll like this are probably the type of people that
are goblins.
That are goblins.
That are goblins.
Like, I'm going to go vote on the dictionary. I'm so quirky.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised metaverse was in there.
Meta.
Dude, it was just all of Facebook bots, all meta bots, just trying to boost it to them. I'm like, come on, we can finally be worth something.
Finally be worth something.
We finally got an award.
Oh man, Meta. I'm tired of hearing about them though.
Well,
hearing about them.
Why is that? Why don't you like to hear about the metas?
It's Facebook trying to act like they're not Facebook.
Yes,
like they're trying to get away from it.
We just had this conversation today?
Yeah,
it was today or yesterday. My days blend together, but I know we were talking about the fact that it was a way out of the bad press that it was having.
Yeah,
Facebook, and they're like, hey, guess what? We'll switch our names. Oh, you don't know about it? Oh, we're new now.
Completely different. Look at this logo. We've never seen that before.
Oh,
it's an M and not an F.
Yeah,
got him.
Who would have thought?
We're so good at making logos.
I think we're really good at roasting companies. Let's keep it going.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of roasting,
companies.
Turkeys.
Do you know of a roasting company?
I do, actually.
Oh, do you?
They roast coffee.
Oh, they roast coffee beans.
No way, man.
They do. Using their unique airbed roasting process.
Oh my gosh.
Look at me.
Can you tell me some more, man?
Right
Tell
off the
us.
bat.
I'm so intrigued.
You are in the zone for our sponsor.
Yes, there's a company. It's actually called Coffee House 5. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Never heard of them. Can you please
tell me more?
Sponsor.
Tell me more about this.
Can you explain it to me like I've never heard about them?
Definitely. With locations in Franklin and Greenwood, and soon a third in Bargersville. Should be very, very soon. Coffee House 5 is actually Johnson County's premier independent coffee shop to relax, study, or meet friends around great coffee and great food Monday through Saturday. But hold on a second, there's more. Whether it's a handcrafted espresso or a single origin pour over, you'll enjoy the freshest, smoothest coffee possible, roasted in-house at their Franklin location using a unique airbed roasting process. The one mentioned before. It's beautiful.
Well, it's like a circle.
It is, isn't it? You see what I did there? There's more, though, too.
Pull me in.
Don't forget to pair your coffee with a ham and cheddar scone, biscuits and gravy that's made with their award-winning Parmesan chive biscuit, or any of their other pastries and sandwiches prepared in their Franklin kitchen using family recipes in a style they call Midwest comfort food.
Wow, that's fancy.
Right? Coffee and food. But if that is not enough to get your attention, Coffee House 5 is a for-benefit coffee house. All profits are invested in building a stronger community through their support of local mental health services, which you can read more about on their website, coffeehouse5.com, F-I-V-E. So the next time you're in Franklin or Greenwood and soon Bargersville, stop by the old Coffee House 5.
Hey, David.
Hey, Tristan.
Did you know that they were on TV?
Who?
Coffee House 5.
Brian Peters.
Who?
Brian and his son Lucas.
Yeah.
So Brian and Michelle Peters, they're the owners of Coffee House 5.
Oh my gosh.
And their son Lucas was with Brian on Wish TV 8.
That's awesome.
And they were talking about the coffee and the food. And
did they mention our podcast?
They did not. Unfortunately.
Well, good thing the sponsor segment's over. No, I'm kidding. That's awesome. What was
cool.
it on for, like the award-winning biscuits and stuff? Or
I can tell you it
about?
wasn't for the award-winning filmmaking, the DP.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
This is actually, that's awesome. Okay. So since we're going to talk about filmmaking anyways, so Tristan and I were, I was like, oh, hey, like I forgot about this, but like Coffee House 5 is on Wish TV 8. And I was like, it was Brian and Lucas. And he was like, oh, I want to see it. So I pulled it up. We were watching it. And they were talking about the different dishes they brought. And they brought the biscuits and gravy and their gluten-free offering. And then
the grilled cheese.
Yeah, they brought a scone and the buffalo grilled cheese. So the scone and the grilled cheese are like next to each other on the table, right? They have like this oval table. Each side is flanked with, one of the news people, the reporters or whatever you want to call the host. And then Lucas and Brian are in between them behind the table. And as they're asking them about the different dishes that they brought with them, the camera operator is like,
Took a swig from his flask.
Yeah, first, yes. Zoomed in on the two leftmost dishes, which is the scone and the grilled cheese, and zooms way far in, doesn't rack focus, first off.
Oh.
And then sits there for a little bit, wiggles the camera a touch, and then goes to look at the scone, zooms in more.
Still out of focus.
And then finally racks focus, but then moves in between the grilled cheese and the scone, like back and forth. And
like he was trying to decide
which one.
Like they're just like talking.
There's so much food.
They're just like talking, and it's just like they're just zoomed way in at these two. They're not even talking about
have multiple
these yet.
angles to cut between, and they just left it on this drunk DP.
Move, and it was just like you didn't even. Like at first they're like, "This is our gluten-free offering," and they switched the camera and zoomed straight into the two dishes that have nothing to do with their gluten-free or that sandwich.
Oh,
it was rough on the camera operation.
That guy's kind of. He probably got a bad review. Which TV?
I don't think there's like a situation where we come out the winners here, because there's no way that man was coherent. It was like diabetic shock or something.
Right.
It's like no matter what, we sound like bad guys.
Maybe he was just really excited about the food and he just wanted to try some.
Just forgot to rack focus.
Yeah,
and
he was
had
just salivating.
pan a camera.
He forgot to look through the monitor, and he was just using his eyes. He's like, "Oh, looks in focus."
The camera was like, "Oh my gosh,
that looks so
good. I want that biscuit."
It's I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I don't know. It feels like we hit this plateau of quality, and we've talked about it. It's like the new cool thing to do is like less quality.
Oh, I was talking about this the other day with Tracy, our friend who's a tattoo artist.
Tracy Scott.
Shout out.
He's got a little tattoo parlor up in Franklin, Indiana, and it's down on the square there's a couple up there, but it's on the northeast side of the square.
Yeah,
I was going to say that.
I was talking to him about like TikTok and how that's like a completely different realm of like media compared to YouTube, and how YouTube got to this point where all the big channels were like trying to do like this Hollywood level like quality for everything that they were doing. We talked about that before, and like the response to that has been where TikTok is like super casual, everything's like really kind of janky, and they're using like the Zoom call version of like green screen where like you're putting yourself into like another, like somebody like out into a field, and you're like overlaid on top, and you just see like the chair behind you like phasing in and out.
And this is not just limited to like people and independent creators. Like big brands are using this for their ads.
And it's just like super random casual things too. It's like some woodworker would be like, he just pulls out his phone and is like, "Hey, I was working on this piece and I just noticed something. Here, look at this. You see that? Don't do that. This is how I would do it." And like, it's just like,
he's like showing an example of his bad example.
Yeah.
He's like, "That's not how I should have do it this way." Yeah.
And MKBHD on YouTube, he usually does like phone reviews and tech reviews, but he made a new YouTube channel called Autofocus, and he's intentionally not using high level production on it. He's recording everything on his phone. And like, is this all just kind of ad hoc? Just he's walking around a
all
camera.
Of his DPs and audio equipment guys are just like sweating there. He's like, "Oh man, he could probably do all this without us and get as many views."
I thought that was the spinoff that was for doing all the car videos.
Yeah, he's reviewing cars, and he's just walking around with his cell phone footage, recording and doing a review with it. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so he's
been a pioneer.
Yeah.
Like he was always like first in on like the reds and shooting in 4K.
Right.
Like all this stuff is always crispy.
The giant crazy mechanical arm that does these shots like over and over perfectly, so you can composite them to have like this crazy, so like insane filmmaking techniques. And now he just made this other YouTube channel where it's like the crappiest editing. It's not terrible. It's the quality between the two channels is noticeable and intentional, not putting in that extra effort.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Tristan? Give me your honest thoughts on this whole thing.
Like,
as a filmmaker,
I just imagine MKBHD just getting real hammered before the shoot. He's like, "I never wanted to be a director." And just like, he's like, "Get out of here!
I'll show you."
He's like, "You guys go back to editing. I'm gonna shoot this one myself." And it's just like walking around with it. I don't know. My thoughts on, I like it. I like guerrilla filmmaking. I like watching high budget movies that have insane, crazy teams producing all the Marvels and I guess everything that's Disney owned now and everything that's Warner Brother owned. It's like, oh, cool, it's so good. Let's make a movie and then never release it, like Batwoman or whatever. It's like, okay, that's a real big waste of everyone's time. And then you get these guys that come on and just like, I'm gonna make a really dumb video with a little ball and my dog, and and the dumbest stuff come out of it, and it's like 3 million views. You know, 2, 10, 15, 50 million views.
Dude, maybe that's the niche though. Maybe what we do is we just like use the Ronin on like everything that just makes no sense to use it on, and like that's the other parallel to it.
No, that's why I bought the Ronin. I'm not kidding. That was literally the reason. I wanted it to be a vlog camera. Like, I bought a cinema camera to shoot vlog style stuff.
The most cumbersome vlog camera in existence.
Dude, you know how you know those rigs where it's like it hangs on your hips and it comes out in front of you to do like the FPV sort of stuff? Like, if you could do that but make it like a selfie cam, but then put the Ronin at the other end of it, you'd have to counterweight yourself from behind.
It's like an Iron Man suit, but like you just suit in to be a cameraman.
Well, it wouldn't have to be that complicated.
Well, I just mean then you could do like, because I'm saying like you can't hold the Ronin out in front of you, but to be able to selfie cam with it and it's stabilized, it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. So there's
hey guys,
there are you wouldn't be able to use your hands, but there is a rig that Alan Pan was using for. I think it was for lifting a really big sword. Like, he wanted to make an anime sword that was actually made of metal that he could lift. Yeah. And he used a camera rig. So ours is a fly cam, which is a camera rig that's like a little backpack, and it has an arm that comes over your head like an L shape. And then it's all metal. And then there's a string that suspends in front of you with your camera mounted. So it's like all tension based. The alternative is, there's a lot of alternatives, but the one that he's using, is basically like an exoskeleton. So like it's a backpack as well. And then it has like foldable or appendages that come down the backside of your forearm and your bicep and then come out to your hands and then basically support your whole arms. Plus you can set the counterweight in the back using springs to support the camera. So it basically takes all the weight off your arms, and it's
interesting,
really cool. And you can get them used for like $900. Our fly cam was new for like $250. So there's price deviations, but you can also get fly cams like ours for $5,000. So the level of quality differs, but something like that, you could definitely point a camera back at yourself with a wide angle lens, but then your hands are in the shot.
Yeah,
because you're using a wide angle. So there's.
I didn't think about it either, though. You know, they make the wire attachment where you can unattach the gimbal portion of the Ronin and then just have like the brain, like the body of it somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
You can make a backpack and attach it to the back of you, and then you could just have the actual camera unit out in front.
Oh, that scares me. Scares me so much.
Why?
Because like you got this tiny little fragile element away from you, and then the main heavy part that is like usually your center of mass is on your back. So it's like now you have two things to think about what you're bumping into. One's already a lot because you also have you have the backpack and you have a rig, and you're like, I'm doing a real estate shoot, so don't bump into walls, or I'm with an actor, don't bump into the talent.
Right.
I'm on set, don't run into a light. And now you're just adding more and more expensive things onto your body, and basically like your personal bubble, right? And it's like that bubble's getting bigger and bigger, except when someone touches you, you don't have like a freak out moment. Things break, physical things break. Maybe if you're really introverted, someone gets in your bubble, you emotionally break.
This just happens.
Financially crippling.
Hey, just taking the one thing you have and splitting it into two. I don't know, man.
But like it's running on like a ribbon cable, isn't it? Like, or is it a?
It wouldn't be a ribbon cable. Those things are so.
Is it? Are they doing a slave cable? Which you can't call it that anymore, but it's a slave cable.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is it like it's a nice cable of like an XLR or something?
Yeah, something along those lines. When they demoed it was, that's what one of the things they were doing with it was actually had the rest of it on the back, and then you could use a separate gimbal setup to be able to attach the camera rig and use the camera with the sensor on the front.
Yeah, if it was like HDMI, USB-C, I wouldn't trust any of that. If it was ribbon cable, I wouldn't trust it. If it was like an XLR, that feel where it's kind of ropey. It's not real rigid, but it has flexibility, but it's also sturdy. It's like, yeah, I'd probably trust that. But either way, you still have the bubble. Don't run into things. Don't break things.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a given, no matter what.
Yeah. I know people have been sponsored to use these cameras, but I've been pretty interested in the Insta360s. Have been getting super popular. Mainly because
now you're talking just about the actual 360
the concept
cams?
of it.
What is I don't think we've ever really talked about 360.
They have like an action cam, and they also have like a 360.
So it's that one that like people were putting in their mouths, and it does like I think they call it like Titan View or something like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the 360 camera and what is Titan View?
So 360 cameras have existed for a while, and ideally just a camera that has special lenses on them that can capture the entire 360 degrees view of where you put it.
Yeah.
And this one's special because it's using 2 camera sensors opposing, and so they're both capturing 180 degrees, and it's smart enough to know where the camera stick is or like the tripod is that you're using and edit it out of the footage. And then it's
cool.
Also high enough resolution to where you can crop in and edit the footage after the fact to make it look like it was like
shot with just a regular wide angle.
Yeah, with a normal camera. And so like the whole selling point is you can just, it doesn't matter where you're holding it, as long as you're just holding it in a certain place, you can just walk around with it, and after the fact you can edit and like choose where the camera was actually pointing for when you upload it somewhere. And I think that's really cool.
It's got some good features for sure. It says in the full resolution, if you want to do it, is 5.7K.
Yeah, the sensor, the resolution for like making it into a normal looking video, it's pretty crappy. Like if you like try to blow it up to like a normal full HD resolution, just because it's very noisy and the camera itself is a relatively small sensor. So I'm excited for it down the road when there's like version 3 or version 4 where like they've nailed it in, and it's kind of like the iPhone or whatever, where they just know the sensor so well. They've trained the AI engine and their own optical engine to like make it look pretty and cool.
Something outside?
It's storming outside.
Well, is it? That was me. I'm looking through their website right now.
Well, I've been hearing thunder and stuff, so I'm a little bit afraid right now we might lose power and lose the podcast.
We'll find out.
We will.
Oh, it's also the camera is also waterproof.
Yeah, it's an action cam.
33 feet.
They're I see them a lot for like surf videos. So the Brandon Talbot video, which this kind of goes back full circle to high production doesn't always mean value in terms of watchability or necessarily in the algorithms push. But he had this video with basically working out for 24 hours in a day. And it was like you wake up, you start working, you take small breaks in between, and the workouts are not hot. They're pretty high intensity, but not to the point that your heart rate's always in like high cardio, just kind of like it's a good workout. So they do surfing and stuff, and he's using 360 cameras, and it's really cool. And his whole role with that production was he was doing just he was like a DP for an ad, and then they had a physical guy that was doing all of the 24-hour workouts, but he was still a director having to keep up with a guy doing all these workouts. But tons of money went into this, tons of production value. The video's amazing and all, and it's like just such a low view count. And then TikTok, Instagram, Reels, and all this. It's like I shot this on my Insta360, and it's like I zoomed in, and it's like real low resolution, and it's just my dog, sitting on my cat, and that's crazy. Woo! Yeah, 30 million views.
Oh my gosh!
Like, I don't think it's going to be like the future of cameras or whatever. Why is this not switching?
But one of the cool things is, I think one of the things that like draws people in, kind of like what Tristan was talking about, it's the ability to have that 360 aspect. And then it you're just filming everything all at once. And then you can go in and post and pull out the sections you want.
I like it that. Can be, Corridor did a video on it. They attached the end of it to an arrow, and they shot it out of a crossbow, and like it was spinning around like crazy and stuff, but it's the camera is so smart, it can still know where it is as it's flying around. So when you try to like point it at like the sky or whatever, it still looks like buttery smooth.
Oh my
and
gosh.
like you can still see what's going on as it's flying through. It doesn't look perfect.
Looks good
because
though.
it's like wobbling through the air and like about to crash into the ground. But like it's good. Like
Yeah.
you could do that type of stuff with it. So you can just chuck it up in the air, and then afterwards you can just have this really high shot like
That's
right
cool.
above you without having any effort put into it. It's crazy.
It's pretty cool. And I know the resolution's come a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, resolution
Yeah.
was like the number one killer of 360 cams
Oh,
in
it
the
was
beginning.
horrible.
Well, it's all the technology that went into VR goggles. I'm sure is getting relayed back because
Oh, for sure.
Because having 360 video, you can watch that in VR, and you
Yeah.
can like sit around and look at it.
Yeah, so it's like one of those tandem. As one improved, the other one had to go along with it. But you're talking about like the rate of progression. One of the older Corridor videos was a 360 camera, and it was Where's Waldo, and it was actually like the interactive, like the Google Cardboard and stuff. So like
yeah.
you
I
would look
remember Google
around,
Cardboard.
and you're trying to find Waldo, and Waldo's getting hunted by like the FBI or something, and like
Oh
it's
my
just like the camera's like moving and stuff. So it's like you're constantly trying to find Waldo, and it was like an action short, but it's interesting to see how like one camera can be used for so many mediums. So like, yeah, you could zoom in and keep it at one angle and edit in post, or the media could be perceived entirely through 360 where, you know, it's kind of a gimmick. Now you don't see it too much where the media has to benefit the story. And then, and Where's Waldo? You're looking around for Waldo. So it's like, that makes sense, but you wouldn't use it outside of that because it's kind of gimmicky. So it's like, how do you use that specific camera or feature to tell a story? It's like waterproof camera. You're limited in options on what can go in the water. And it's
For
like
sure.
the Ronin, super big. It's like the 360 you can put in small pipes or, you know, like
Yeah.
put in weird places that a bigger camera can't. So it's like, to me, the value of it isn't just the fact that you can use any angle later. It's the form factor, and like Cole was
it's so
reading off the
small.
features. It's like, how does this camera allow me to get a shot that another camera wouldn't have otherwise?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little bit bigger than like a ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, like a
Yes.
little
Yeah.
That's a
sandwich
good-
bar.
Yeah, yeah.
I know a lot of guys put them on the back of their cars,
Oh, yeah.
like on the pole,
I
and then
saw
you can
one.
see everything.
I think it was you and me saw it. It was that
On the
new
Supra?
Supra.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude was driving like a maniac on the
Weaving through-
interstate. Like
Ugh.
I've never seen someone cutting off, and I would never call in someone for speeding. I think speeding's very cool. On the record, I think speeding's neat.
That is not
How-
an official statement of TRIFLIX.
That's an
thank you.
official statement of ya boy. However, I think reckless driving in endangerment of other people on the road is really silly.
Dude
And
was racing.
he wasn't racing
Like, he
anyone
was
but
just-
himself.
Yeah.
It was like when you play Mario Kart and there's a ghost track and it's like the car is invisible, but it's like your previous time. You know, like he's
like-
just racing himself in his head.
No, it's like a 25-year-old has played Mario Kart for like his entire life, playing his like 5-year-old cousins, just destroying them. But
Yeah, well, like
knows
he
all the
was,
shortcuts.
he was like speeding up from like 70 to 100 very quickly. It's a
Jeez.
sports car.
There
That's
were
what
no
it
lanes.
does.
No
Yeah.
lanes to him.
Yeah,
Just
and
obstacles.
Just
just
you're
cutting
in his
cars
way.
off. But the window
It's kinda
that he was
tight.
cutting them off was just super tight, like just feet to inches of
Jeez.
room. And all I was thinking about, aside from calling the police, where can I find that footage? Because it probably looked amazing. Because
Wait, so-
he had a 360 camera on a pole off of his rear trunk or off of the top of his T-top or whatever those are on the
Yeah, I think
the
they
Supras.
they just
think it
they
was off
usually
the
put them towards the back, actually kind of hanging off the rear trunk.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times they'll use the pole that comes with it, and it's like
Yeah.
it's suction cupped onto the spoiler itself.
It was like 5 feet off the back end of the car, and the car sits kind of low, but it's like the camera is at the height of like a Suburban, like a tall Tahoe, like an SUV height is
There's
where
a
the
lot
camera
of faith
is.
in those suction cups, man.
There's a lot of
I
faith.
do not trust them.
I can tell you, I don't trust them firsthand.
They actually,
I,
depending upon what it is, actually it works pretty well.
Did I ever tell you what happened to my GoPro?
You know?
I don't know if you have.
So
What's the story?
we were out in another action cam, not 360, but a very wide angle one regardless. And we were going on our trip out west, and I was probably like 17, 18, somewhere around there. And I did a lot of really cool things. We got to go national parks and all this stuff, and I had a ton of great footage. Me and my family taking a Mustang out in the middle of nowhere, getting pulled over by a cop for speeding, and tons of wild adventures. Grand Canyon. I overcame some of my fear of heights. I pushed myself to the limit. I got up close to the edge and was like walking off the trails and stuff, being silly. All this footage is stored on here, and then we get to canoeing and kayaking, and I suction cupped it on the side of my little boat, and I got going real fast. Real fast, and
fast.
My paddle kept tapping the side of my my kayak, and my mom was like, "Hey, you better tie that thing off or attach a buoy to it so it doesn't sink." And I look over my shoulder, like, "I'll be fine." And then I heard clunk, and I look up,
like right as it happened.
Yeah, like as it's happening. She says there was more time in between. There wasn't.
She gone.
It was like as she said it, I was like, "Oh, it's all good," and instantly it just plops right in the water. And this was up in Arizona, which you think would be hot in the middle of summer, or I don't know. It was like late summer, whatever. And up in the mountains, though, it gets super cold.
Oh, and completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. It's desert at the bottom, and then up at the mountain, it's all pine trees and nice cold weather. So the water is actually a runoff from the top of the mountains where usually snow accumulates. So all the water in that area is like probably 60, 70 degrees.
Real cold.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's cold.
Especially whenever you dressed in shorts and t-shirts for Arizona and Colorado, and I don't know where else we went. I don't think we went to New Mexico. Nevada, because we were in Vegas. But like all these places, it's like the next day and a half, I went wading in this water, and I couldn't find it anywhere because up in these mountains, a lot of your runoff from the mountain is soot and mud. So every season it recoats in mud. So didn't find it. It's buried under layers and layers of mud now. So if it ever gets found, that'd be cool. But I can tell you, suction
air tag
cups,
or a tile on it.
Should have.
It sounds like a user error to me.
It does.
I'm just saying the suction cup did not hold on a porous kayak.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you. So like one of the first things I did with my GoPro was I bought the suction cup mount. I mounted it on the side of my car, and I took it for a drive. That thing was on there, which
Really?
I don't know if you guys knew this or not. Like, we have a suction cup mount for the Nikons.
I don't
It's
trust
a triple suction cup.
triple.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's 3 of them.
triple suction cup.
Yes, and I've also tested it, and it works really well.
That just scares me. Unless it's a suction cups
Hey,
where like
man,
you hook up like
anything
the
for the
vacuum
shop.
and it pulls
Yeah.
out the air and like it just 100% no way it's coming off that surface. I just don't trust it.
Hey man, that bike rack that I just bought. Remember I told you it's a
Oh man,
suction cup.
that scared me too. It's like you're flying down the highway.
I took
with
it twice to Brown County, man, and it was fine. And those are the ones though that you put on and then you push the little
Yeah, it
button
has the thing.
and it sucks the air out.
Is that what verticals are for now? Is that what we should be posting? Just all this dumb stuff we shot a long time ago? Just like from the archives, Cole and Tristan, and
Why
just
not?
all this dumb stuff? Because it's just sitting on drives
It's
now.
content, man.
We love content.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
I probably have some of the stuff where I don't know if I kept the trip with the car, but I might have. I don't know.
Does it matter? Like, is there? Because like
We
a
should
lot
just
of
give
like
it a shot, dude. I'll put it on
That's
I'll put a Nikon. I'll put my Nikon on the Audi for a shot. We'll give it a shot.
Not just like now, but like all this old content too. Because like a lot of the stuff that blows up on TikTok and Instagram Reels is just so random. Like it's not relative to the brand.
Yeah.
Like a person may post something and you may never see their content again. Like I know people get followers, but with TikTok, the algorithm is what determines what goes in
Super
front
random,
of you.
yeah.
So who you follow has very little impact on that. So
Yeah.
it's like, is there really?
Depends. There's 2
Yeah.
sections. You can swipe between following and then
Oh,
for
nobody
you.
is that
following.
new? Is that always been
It's
there?
always been that way.
Okay.
But no one I have people who follow me that know me, but it's like I don't follow anybody. I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I go on there for the randomness of it,
Yeah.
the luck of the draw.
But
which-
like, is that what TRIFLIX TikTok should become?
Well,
Like, I mean, it's still relative to what we
the
do.
TikTok users themselves aren't posting random content. It's what people are consuming is random.
correct. And that,
But then
although I
if
will
it's
say,
consumed randomly, does it matter? As long as it's like, does it involve a camera in some way, or cars, or like something we're actually interested in?
I believe for us, yes, you can again, right, like you said, our basis for everything that we post is filmmaking, right? It's like that's what we do. If a camera's in our hand for whatever reason, that's fine.
It has to be related to the skill.
Exactly. So as long as it's
in
that,
some way.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So
post away.
Car driving down the road real fast, you just put, I don't know, a tag on there for Nikon and call it good.
Yeah.
Cool. I see people just like mechanics reacting to other like mechanic life hacks. Be like, look at this is stupid. Like, why would you do that?
All day long.
It's like, oh yeah, of course the screw wouldn't go in. You're putting in reverse, and you take out your other screwdriver. Of course it goes in. Haha. Good stuff.
Let's just talk about goofs for a bit then. Everybody's got goofs.
So you could be looking up random stuff. Like it's very. It's like you just find a thing that's funny, people will enjoy, and then you just blow up.
It's true.
I got footage on one of my old Samsungs of me moving my camera incrementally closer to a spinning ceiling fan, and then it hits the lens,
and then
I'm just like, oh no,
no,
but like just like a hard cut right on the no.
That'd be pretty funny.
But like I know that sitting on a drive somewhere, and I just never did anything with it.
These would all be great, and I think you lean into it even more, and you start saying that like these are things that are coming out of like the TRIFLIX vault.
Yes,
like this is the vault of old footage.
Well, that's like like
why not lean into it? Yeah. If it's entertaining, like at the end of the day, like with the TikTok stuff, it's like it's promotion and entertainment. If somebody comes along something and says that's funny, and or I enjoyed that, or that conversation was made me curious about the podcast, that's great. That's a win. I think that's awesome.
There's this. If you ever seen the YouTube channel like Crash Course or the SciShow?
No.
There's just this guy. His name's Hank Green. And he would make like educational YouTube videos online. It'd be like 30 minutes to an hour long about some subject. But he pivoted to TikTok, and he's blown up. You might have like seen him.
I might have, yeah.
He just responds to people who like when people say like I'm so hot, I shine brighter than the sun, I think it's so cute, and then he'd just be like, well, actually, if you look at the mass of like heat per sun, the square inch versus the heat per your body, you are actually hotter on average than the sun. Oh my God. And like he just goes into like random facts and explains something in a way that's easy to digest, and he's fortified this whole new like TikTok thing for educational stuff.
See, my favorite thing is the people who just regurgitate old TV shows and stuff. Like
they mimic a scene?
Well, so my whole feed essentially right now is all Judge Judy episodes and a bunch of like cops pulling people over.
Yeah.
It's just clips from that?
Because I don't know. It was like there's been like the Judge Judy ones are literally someone takes her shows and they're all random profiles. It's never the same one. And they just take it and they break it down into like 3 or 4 parts. And I will sit there and watch the whole thing because I'm like, oh, I'm intrigued. Like,
So you like watch the whole Judge Judy show in like 2 minutes? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Summary?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's like the whole...
But it's actual footage from...
Yeah.
That's like the whole jurisdiction thing right now is so like YouTube... You would upload a song that someone else made, and maybe you add lyrics to it, and that was fine for a long time. And then those started getting pulled, and it's like the whole Kanye thing. Like you can't upload a link to his interview. However, people upload clips of it,
right?
And then it's like you can upload like on TikTok like shortened versions of whatever the show is, but if you uploaded a full show to Instagram, I don't know whatever platform's long enough to host it, as far as I know, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube would be the only ones, those would get pulled in full length. So it's like you get into like this gray zone of per platform of how much can I illegally do, because it's all not your content to share, and it's not it's not transformative.
It's okay if you put in your description, I do not own this.
It makes it okay. It's not illegal anymore.
Everything okay.
See, and then there's the counter argument of
it doesn't do anything.
Me putting out a shorter version of it directs people to go watch the full length of it because of the I'm inquisitive.
Yeah.
And then
how many times have you done that, Cole? How many times have you watched a full show of Judge Judy after seeing those TikToks?
Never.
But how many people have you seen play
I don't even know where you go to watch it.
Twitch and YouTube play a video game, and then you're like, I want to get that game. And I think that's hit or miss, because I've like storyline games I've seen people do a playthrough, and I'm like, well, I already watched it, why would I play it? However,
sometimes
Call
the
of Duty
is horrible to play.
Valheim and all these.
It's
like those are games that I saw other people play, and then it drew us in.
Yeah.
So it's like it's so weird to think what as a company, what do I allow other people to do with my media? And it's not even like a legality thing. In some cases it is, but it's like, it's almost entirely up to the company on how they just want to handle it, as well as the platform.
Well, and it's like, I mean, you have to think, it's like anything, right? I mean, as these things continue to branch off, like you can't track down every instance.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's also one of those things that as it continues to grow itself, you can't really monitor everything that's happening.
It's in the Wild West right now.
It's true.
It's going to slowly become how YouTube is. Probably like
and
within
that's
the next 2 to 3 years, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, welcome the days to come that are going to be like the old school iTunes DRM, you know what I mean? That's just like, this is locked down to a platform and you can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Is there so I don't understand TikTok very much because I don't use it. I was talking to my sister about it the other day. She says there's no ads on TikTok. Is that
No, there's ads.
There's ads. So
there's
like you're
definitely ads.
you're scrolling through and an ad will pop up. Okay.
It just looks like another TikTok.
Maybe she was unaware.
There are small differences. Like I think there's a couple buttons they give you to actually go to the link out, which you can't do otherwise. But like we had talked about earlier, like a lot of times the ads are literally TikTok creators that they've hired to then, like I think there's one that pops up all the time that's super stupid, but it's like a Taco Bell or something, and it's this chick and it's like any other TikTok you would see, like she's like, oh, I just went to Taco Bell and got this taco and I can't wait to eat it.
I just love Taco Bell. Have you been to Taco Bell and gotten their new $5.99 lunch menu deal?
Yeah, but it's all shot on a cell phone.
Yeah.
But it's a legit
commercial. Someone.
Yeah. So they bake them in to a certain degree that if you didn't know or weren't smart enough to see it, they're hitting you with that ad.
My assumption was companies weren't going after TikTok based on what she had said because there was no money to take. But if they're getting ad revenue, then there's money to take.
For sure.
There's ads.
Interesting.
100%. Yeah.
Which I just have to say, back to what I was saying was on my feed, the cop stuff is so interesting. It's hilarious.
What's the draw?
The draw is that people are so stupid. It's like, you just like, this guy, I just watched this one last night. This dude gets pulled over. He comes up and he's like, dude, you were speeding. And he's like, he's like, I'm just not having a good day, man. And he's like, it's all good. Like, this dude was super chill with him. He's like, it's all good, man. He's like, you were speeding. And he's like, do you know how fast you were going? He's like, 60. He's like, you were going 80. And he's like, what's the speed limit? He's like, 50. He's like, no, it's 30. And he's like, so, I don't know what's going on here, man, but just give me, everybody says in the comments, they're like, when they say hang tight, you're screwed. And so he's like, just hang tight. So he goes back to his car. This dude had been arrested the day before. License was suspended. And when he was arrested because he had drugs in his car. And so he goes back and he's like, hey, man, you just got arrested yesterday. Your license is suspended. Like, this is all not so great. And he's like, do you have anything in the car? And he's like, no. And he's like, do you have anything in the car? And he's like, I got a couple pills. And he's like, what kind of pills? And he's like, Xanax. And he's like, what do you mean by a couple? And he's like, just a couple. They pulled this dude out, went through all the things. He had half a pound of cocaine, 800 Xanax, and then he had like 600 oxys and something else. Like, dude was loaded down.
I wonder if he'd get in trouble for lying to an
everything.
Officer. Yeah, because like a couple.
This guy generally means
nice. Two.
No, I know.
Like colloquially,
he literally then he's like, I don't know, man, like 8 to 12, like Xanax.
Oh no,
the number keeps going up every time he asks.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe half a bag. The backpack.
Enough to kill a camel.
The cop was super nice though. Like the girlfriend was in the car. He let her go. He said, now I can't guarantee you that the district attorney isn't going to want to press charges like once this goes to the state. But he said, as of right now, you're free to go. But just know that you do have involvement to a certain degree. And like, I'm cool with it, but that doesn't mean the state won't come after you.
And by I'm cool with it, he means like he put some in his pocket and then he was like,
peace out.
I'm cool with it.
But he was super nice because he like, when they booked him and took him back, the cop kind of turned around, was talking to the camera, and he was like, he's like, it's super unfortunate. I hope that the kid he was like 19. He's like, I really hope that he gets his life together because he's got a lot of life left to live. Yeah. He was a really nice guy and he handled the situation perfectly. But I was just like it draws you in though, because I'm like, I want to see what happens to this guy. Like,
he recovered and then got a job at the news station, and now he runs a camera.
There
And now we're the guys that were making fun of him.
Yeah.
Full circle.
And now he's going to watch our podcast and he's going to relapse.
And there's actually a ton of pullover
Out of
videos too
depression.
of people who
that's a whole
impersonate
thing.
cops.
Oh, really?
That happens a lot.
Huh.
And I think that's insane. Like, this dude was clearly not a cop, had lights in his car, and denied and said that he had been a cop for 3 years. All these things. Was like, knew the lingo, the whole thing. And the guy just felt like something wasn't right. Asked the questions, looked him up and everything. Not in the system. Had a record, all of these things, and eventually he's like, I got to put you in the back of the car while my commanding officer, whatever you call it, comes, and he's like, and then we'll talk more. I need to like look into this a little bit more, but you're good, man. And like set him in the back, and eventually like comes up, opens up the door, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm definitely not a cop. Said he'd been on the force for 3 years, left his belt at home, just happened to not have anything, had a badge that he bought online. He was like, where'd you get the badge? He's like, I bought it online. Had somebody pulled over, by the way.
That's illegal to do, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, impersonating an officer.
super illegal to do, like, all those things.
There's only one day of the year you get away with that, and that's Halloween.
Halloween.
Barely. That's only girls. Or if you're dressing like anybody from Reno 911, then they know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
like
gotta
really
put
short
the
shorts.
mustache.
Really short, New boot goofing. But anyway, sorry. I just had to go off on that tangent because it's
That's
been
something.
very entertaining.
So another impersonation thing along that lines. I did
Hey,
not
I
know
know.
this was a thing, but apparently there's a lot of pedophile catchers or sexual catchers. Like I'm going to go online and I'm going to catch bad guys, like Chris Hansen style.
I was gonna say, so like people are just imitating the whole
Yes.
Chris Hansen thing.
So people are imitating a childhood hero of sorts. Chris Hansen out there saving kids every day.
Chris Hansen is a baller.
He is.
He is. I've
And
seen
everybody,
a couple.
I understand the admiration for wanting to be that cool, but I can't help but feel these are just clout chasers wanting to catch a big bad guy so that they can get their click.
Yeah.
But
there is a thrill to it, I'm sure.
I'm sure. But one that I had seen was, and this whole thing could have been staged as well because it's the internet. Everything's assumed to be fake. But he tracks down a guy, and apparently it wasn't the guy he thought was messaging their fake kid or whatever. And they find this guy, and then they start interrogating him, and he's like, dude, I have to go to the gym. Like, that's my next thing. I'm going to the gym, but I'll answer some questions, whatever. And they start interrogating him, and he's like, I lied. I'm not going to the gym. I'm actually going to recovery. I've been dealing with like addiction, and this was one of my classes, but like, I'm not going to say that to someone I don't know. And then the guy's like, oh, well, all right. Like, it just became more apparent they had the wrong guy. And he's like, well, quit screwing your life up, and just walks away. And it's like, just like the guy was embarrassed because he caught the wrong guy.
Yeah, right.
And then just insults this dude who's like, that could have been the thing that set him over the limit. And it's like just people doing things online, which is the history of the internet, just to collect the clout that they think they deserve.
In that same vein, there's for some reason it showed up in my recommended. I started watching them a while back. I haven't seen them since. It's these people who go to like lakes and things, and they have like searching equipment for like deep dives.
I've watched those. They're so good.
1 or 2 channels that like have like really weird vibes,
like planted stuff in the water to catch.
Not that they're planning it, but like their heart just does not seem like it's in the right place.
Okay.
Like they get like really annoyed when like the police get involved and like they can't film what's going on.
Okay, I haven't watched these guys. I've watched the main one.
Yeah.
That
I don't remember what they're called. This is a while back.
I don't either, but they're super big, but they're super cool, and they like they're actually like normally they're in or friends or really close with like law enforcement.
Yeah, they work with them.
Yeah.
So is this like they're initially trying to work with the police?
No, like the guys that
how do the police get
the
involved?
good ones are like the ones that are very wholesome and are like doing everything by the book. They work with like the local law enforcement. But there was this one channel who like just wanted to do it on their own, like freelance type of thing. Like, we got a lead that some bodies or like a car might be lost in this lake, and we're gonna go find it.
Treasure hunters.
Yeah, it's almost like they're just trying to do it for the fame.
It's all Vinny Warhead.
Yeah, it's just weird.
You ever heard that Joey Diaz bit? David hates it.
Stop. Don't bring it up.
So-
It has nothing to do with this.
Oh no, it does.
No,
So
it
Joey
doesn't.
Diaz was telling him a story about a comedian, whatever. He was telling a story about a kid that he grew up with, and the kid got rejected from the fire department. So he became a volunteer fire department, but they couldn't get a helmet that would fit his head. So he ends up suing the city. They give him like $15,000, and then he goes around town afterwards setting places on fire so that he could be there to take out the fire and beat the fire department to it. And every time the fire department would come, he would be like, I'm a better fireman than you. I caught the fire. I was here first. I don't even have a truck. My helmet doesn't fit, and I was here first. I'm the better fireman. So it's like just this idea of you think people go into a profession for the goodness of their heart or something like that, depending on if they're a public servant, right? But it's just funny that some people may idolize, whether that's treasure hunting or putting out fires or whatever. They just have like, I'm going to do it because it's all I want to do, and anyone else that gets in my way is a problem, even though it's law enforcement who are there to, help people.
There's a great movie that's actually about all this sort of national treasure.
Yeah.
Get in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Good old
It's a great
Nicolas
movie.
Cage. I have his
Good old
photo
Nick
on my
Cage.
desk.
No, the one dudes they're legit. They've actually helped solve a lot of cold cases.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's just stuff that's gone dry. They don't know, and the person's literally like in their car at the bottom of a retention pond, and no one knew they were there.
Did they like they're dead?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They've been sitting there for 12 hours. Nobody knows what's going on, but they got a lead.
I don't know. I can see like maybe a Land Rover sitting 12 hours without you know what I'm saying? Like it's a Land Rover. It's waterproof. Like there's no water getting in this thing. It's airtight.
There's a lake out in, I want to say like Nevada, that's been slowly drying up because they would. Well, it was a lake that
it's
they would
a lake
be
in a
intentionally
desert.
putting water into to hold for like the town, and they've abandoned this lake, and so it's just been drying up, and so they've been slowly like finding like boats and like cars and like barrels
Full of people,
probably full
like
of
barrels
people.
full of monkeys, but
way
gruesome.
But not fun.
like really bad analogies.
I know.
Think about a barrel full of monkeys, but instead of monkeys,
They're dead people.
I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, it makes sense, man.
Oh man, I
Their
never thought
arms
of it
locked
like
together,
that.
and you can pull them all out at once. It's a lot of fun.
You only wanted one, but they keep coming.
I was like, there's so many. Now I have to do more paperwork.
I'm gonna pivot us.
That guy on TikTok is really annoyed with law enforcement on that one.
Yeah.
Water. I wanted to talk about this. So while we're talking about water, because you made me think of this with the whole being underwater for 12 hours and surviving, because it doesn't work that way. Have you guys
What
seen?
about it wouldn't work?
Have you guys seen any of the things? I don't know, behind the scenes, development wise, with the new Avatar, The Way of Water.
Not at all. I haven't been giving it much attention. I was like,
I'll give it as much as attention as I gave the first one.
Well, the only thing is this is, James Cameron, like the director, he's innovated on a lot of technologies and the things that, he helped invent a camera style to be able to shoot with, and he's using a lot of the new tech to help, visualize what's happening, even though everything's mocap and fake, essentially. Yeah. So he's done a lot of cool stuff, and he invented like this waterproof camera that they were using. And the reason water made me think of it, I mean, not just because of the name, but this whole film is around, based around this water tribe now that's Avatar.
What's its
based.
title? It's like Avatar or The Way of the Water.
The Way of Water, yes.
Way of Water.
So
get it right.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and and Sigourney Weaver was on there, which she's one of the people that are in the film.
Is she like the blonde-haired girl?
No, this is the chick from Alien that played Ripley.
I was thinking of the one from Atlantis that's like animated, and I was thinking of the blonde like tough chick.
Oh yeah, no,
not that one at all.
No.
Similar, but
the
different.
chick from Alien.
Okay.
She also, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was in the second Nemo And they play it over and over at like the aquarium. It's like, hi, I'm Sigourney Weaver and welcome to the aquarium or whatever. And it's kind of a fun little Easter egg that they threw in. But anyways, that's cool. She's been an actress for a very long time, and her stuff is awesome. She's been in a lot of science fiction stuff. But she was talking about, she trained for a year and a half with a Navy SEAL guy, like the whole cast did. Trained for a year and a half, and they trained her to be able to hold her breath underwater for 6.5 minutes.
Wow.
And she's like, anybody can do it. You just have to be trained. But they had to do all of this so that they did a lot of shooting actually underwater to get the motion right.
That's amazing.
Okay. It's incredible.
What a concept, practical effects. And a year and a half of planning.
Yeah, well, and that's the crazy thing, because they were talking like they've technically filmed both 2 and 3.
Oh.
Yep.
They did the Matrix thing where they filmed the 2 films at the same time.
Yep. They did the Matrix thing where they're probably both going to be
I'm sure Matrix was the first to do it.
Well, she was saying like literally this takes about 4 or 5 years to actually finish.
Wow.
One film. And they're projecting somewhere in the realm of like, I don't know, 200 to 300 million is what he spent on this.
Well, I sure hope it doesn't flop.
You know, here's the thing.
But they're planning on making all the way of making 5 of these. And she said the last one would come out like in like 2028.
The Way of Fire.
I don't know.
They're going to get all the elements, and there's like Avatar, the last
the Airbender.
Yeah. They're going to slowly try to absorb that
water,
IP.
fire, wind, earth. It's all there.
There'll be red people.
I know you know the story. But this is how much respect I have for Avatar. My only experience watching it.
That's your fault, though.
No, it's not.
Go watch the real movie.
It was kind of long when I was a kid. I got bored.
No, and I'm not. There are like, I watched it once and I never watched it again.
Yeah.
But now, you know, because of my new understanding of filmmaking and what goes into it, and, you know, my newfound admiration for James Cameron, because like I've learned things about this man that I didn't know, right? Like how influential he's been in the industry. And
did you know he shot Titanic?
I did, yes. But like, he loves water. But it's like, I don't know. It's just really cool now to think I can have a newfound, you know, respect for the second Avatar, just due to my understanding of filmmaking and what he's done to push the industry. It's really cool. And this dude thinks so big. Like the fact he's like, this is going to be like a 10-year project I'm going to make, or plus. And they're like, I'm going to make 5 movies and everything's mocap, everything's CGI. And we're going to continue. Like they work with Weta and they just continually make all these new things, which when you do this, it pushes technology. It pushes what you couldn't do before.
They got a real passion for it.
That's true. That's true.
You know who else?
Who else has a passion?
Our local passion for acting.
Sigourney Weaver.
We'll come back to this because I actually have stuff to add. A passion for acting theater company is our sponsor segment for them.
Teo's so disappointed you hard cut in the middle of a conversation.
It's getting kind of long though. We need to get it in.
I don't blame him.
Passion for Acting Theater Company is a passion for bringing excellent. I'm so sorry, Andrew. Passion for bringing excellent and entertaining live theater to audiences in Bartholomew County. Passion for Acting Theater Company, created in 2018, performs dinner theater productions at the terrific and eclectic Willow Leaves of Hope on the Square in Hope, Indiana. Woo! Their first production, The Miracle Worker, was a huge success and received great reviews from audience members. Since then, Passion for Acting Theater Company has performed 10 shows, ranging from comedies like The Kitchen Witches and The Odd Couple, to drama and suspense like the original murder mystery, Angel Street, to classic children's literature like The Secret Garden and Anne of Green Gables. Their next show will be Kalamazoo, a comedy about what happens when older folks try to get into the online dating scene. We need to redo that in there. To fix the,
Read better.
Kalamazoo will be performed at the Willow Leaves of Hope in February, just in time for a Valentine's date or to laugh the winter blues away.
Wow. Enjoy
a delicious dinner and a great night of entertainment at Willow Leaves of Hope. Their phone number is 812-341-75 Oh, we got to redo that. Ignore everything I just said.
Yes.
Their phone number is 812-341-7251. Call now to make reservations for this laugh out loud comedy.
Good job, David.
Yeah.
Do better.
So I do really want to watch Avatar now, because having our filmmaking lens has changed the way I've like kind of consumed media.
Yes.
And so I want to watch it to like notice all the things that they've done, and also kind of remember like what was actually crazy to do at that time compared to now.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. Like, we were talking about this earlier and I didn't get the chance to interject it, but one of the main reasons why I got into this industry was to be able to use and apply new techniques or technology towards, what we do, whether that's film or stills. And like, that's super exciting because, they're using, what is it called? Oh, the volume, right? Mm-hmm. So like the big screens and stuff, like they're using augmented reality and mixed reality, and they're trying to, like, that's why he developed that camera, because before, when you would do it right, you're just like, you're acting everything out in a room with your skin tight suit with the little balls all over it and cameras that are tracking your face, and they're doing all of this, and like they're using props and trying to feel what's really happening even though they can't see it. Mm-hmm. But they said now they can actually film them and show what they would look like on screen as one of the characters.
Yeah.
So there's ways to like bridge the gap between the two realities.
Yeah.
And make a film and like help your actors understand kind of what's happening. I mean, it's amazing. And like, those are the things I think would be so much fun to have the opportunity to play around with.
I had a similar moment thinking about like how something was made when I was watching a really old anime, so like a cartoon from Japan.
Yep.
And it was made in the 1980s. This anime was called Mobile Suit Gundam. So if you ever seen like the giant robot things with like giant swords and stuff, and it doesn't really make any sense, it's probably inspired or what I'm talking about. But if you think about in like the 1980s,
Power Rangers,
and like you think of all those old like cartoons, this looks like that. So like drawn on like painted on like the cells, and like they just point a camera at it. Or I forget what it's called, but it's like what Disney kind of developed over time.
Right.
And I was watching this, and like it was just like a scene, and a guy is in an office, and it starts just looking at this vase, and a guy like walks behind the vase, but the guy behind him is out of focus. And then then it focuses in on him, and it makes the vase go out of focus. So they intentionally, just for this one-off shot, nothing else in this entire show has done this. They were like messing with like the planes of view and like making the camera focus behind like the two different layers of cells. I'm like, why did they do that? That is so over the top. Like that is for just one shot.
You'd have to be shooting with, because it's like the cell's basically like a sheet of glass with an image on the glass. So it's like you have like a window with a decal, and then you have like 4 of those. Like each one is a layer. So whether the vase, the person in the background. So you'd have to be shooting, I assume, if they're using like a general cell frame, which isn't that big. It's like 2 foot by 3 foot at the largest, and then it'll shrink down from there. You would have to be using like a macro lens or something because traditionally you don't want them out of focus. But also like the shallow depth of field to move, those cells have to either be really far apart, or they were shooting it with like a very like wide open f.7 or something to pull that off, which is impressive.
Well, when I was watching
introducing filmmaking
like,
into
it
animation,
took me a couple seconds to realize what just happened because like, they did what? Like this is like the 1980s. Why are they doing this? Like nobody would even think to do that. And like for us, like it's like that's cool. Like you wouldn't even think about it because we see this so much happen. But then like my brain clicked. It was like, what? What did and I went back and watched it again. It's like they just like focus pulled, and they did all this planning for like a 2-second shot. Yeah. And like you don't even see that anywhere for like the next like hour and a half of footage.
That's
like,
awesome,
why are you doing that?
Just for fun. Just
they're just flexing that they could do that.
It's really cool. Yeah. Really cool premise.
Which I mean, that's the whole point, right? I mean, so we had the shoot the other day, and we went and shot the mural that just got painted downtown Franklin.
Yeah.
We got like B-roll of it.
Right next to Coffee House 5.
Yes, that's true. And we got to talk to the artist and the company that commissioned the art, Upstream Prevention.
And Patrick.
And Patrick. Sorry. I was getting there. So we got to work with all these people, and one of the things that I wanted to try out this time, I happened to be in the area the day before, and they wanted some aerial footage of it as well, and it just happened to be, I was like, this is going to be a better day. So I was like, I'm going to go. But I was waiting. The mural actually faces west, and it's in a pretty, probably like an 8 to 10 foot wide alleyway. So not a lot of space, but I really wanted that direct sunlight to light the whole thing. And like high noon's at 12:30 right now, so I had an hour to kill. So I was like, what would be really cool? I was like, let's 3D scan the whole alleyway. And then Tristan hasn't been, and he's not super familiar with Franklin. So I was like, what I'll do is I'll 3D scan it. I can send him a link, and then he can literally pan around this space in 3D on his computer and figure out kind of where he wants to shoot at, in conjunction with the mural. So he has the ability as a filmmaker to see this
which the lighting somehow was drastically different. Not the overhead, but like the harsh shadow line, like where the sun was at that time was very different than where the image that you'd sent, because I probably would have changed our direction. However, it was really cool because I could actually see what the specific location was, and then also, like you said, get an idea of framing. I knew we'd have to shoot at one side of the alley, and I still think the side we chose was fine. But it was just like a really cool idea because I never thought about it. You just sent it over, and I was like, wow, I have all the same information as if I were there right now. Like, there's, from a filmmaking aspect, it's like framing, lighting, and maybe noise. But noise is, that's something you can't really work when you're outside anyways. Just pick a directional mic and point it away from sound.
Well, the issue was with when we went, the lighting, as natural lighting goes, it changed a lot. We had a lot of like sun in and out of the clouds. And it's in that small of an alleyway, once you hit that high noon direct in the middle sunlight, it's still in the south. So as it starts to go towards the west, it happens pretty quickly. And so we did start to get, we had a lot of like very soft lighting, and then the sun came out and it was very harsh, and it really popped out. And then by the time we had the opportunity to go film more there, we started to get some of those shadows that we wouldn't have normally had. So it's all a timing thing, and it looks great. We made it work, but it was just one of those things where, we're trying to also take those technologies that apply them to our everyday, and the thought of being able to maybe eventually, simulate in that environment as well. Like,
because it's a 3D model.
Yeah. So, if I place the camera here and it's got a 35 millimeter lens on it, what's going to be my field of view?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
that
really
would be
good idea.
I mean, I think the technology exists, and the potential of it is we just haven't ever tried to implement something like this before.
Yeah.
And I mean, is it Unreal or Unity or something? Aren't those like free to use type of softwares?
Those two in Blender.
It depends on what you're using it for. Blender's free. Unreal has some elements that are free, so it's weird. It depends if you're like
licensing
a company
and
bigger than
it.
like 500 employees or something.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
no, for our use case, it would be free because we're not profiting off of it. We're not making a game or anything. Like, it is entirely for modeling.
Just internal,
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
But that would be, I mean, again, right, next level. So you're like, I show up to a shoot, because we like to be able to see the location anyways beforehand.
Sure.
It makes a big difference for planning, especially with time saving. So the ability to go out, do a 3D scan. And again, we did this scan with our phone, with Polycam, and you kind of have to have a newer iPhone to have the LiDAR.
That is cool.
So that helps a lot.
Your cool iPad that has LiDAR and be like,
Yeah. I have to have you come scan my house.
Yeah, and my only thing with the iPad is I know the cameras are not as good. The LiDAR does work, but I wanted a better, it does overlay the image on top of it. So I wanted a really good, clear, crisp image of this model. And it helps a lot, but it's definitely something you can do. But I figured, it's just like if I could attach a LiDAR sensor and make it all work together on the Nikon, like that would be next level.
There's a software that I use for planning like my home layout called Home by Me, and they do have an option to import 3D models, and generally it's used for like furniture, or like you find something online, you import a model. However, they have talked about like having the option to import floor plans and stuff like that. So like from an application outside of filmmaking, like the idea of, you know, having a property and being able to import it into something actually usable for like home remodel, repair, redesigning, or just moving furniture around, as opposed to making it from scratch. Like get the tape measure out and run around. It's like, it's LiDAR, so it's within a very a vary of accuracy. Like
it's very close.
Yeah,
I did
but it's good enough for most testing, unless you're like super detailed.
I did 3D scan of the office, and we know the dimension of all the rooms, so I checked it, because you can actually do virtual measuring within your model, and so I checked it. It was very close. I mean, close enough within a margin that you could pre-plan something.
You could buy a couch and a desk and get the employees what they need.
Yes.
And order all that ahead of time.
Set up the blinds.
Yeah, set up the blinds.
Set up the blinds, man. Then everybody can move in.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of application for these things. And, you know, to think that we might have the opportunity at one point, you know, I would love to, you know, I think the volume is one of those things that I want to see in person. They some team that helps set it up, they put a lot of things out there online, a lot of short videos, whether it's reels or shorts or TikToks. But I've seen a couple of them where they're like calibrating the system, and the camera, you know, is on a robot arm, and then they've got this, you know, screen behind them that's like calibrating so that everything works together. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's an amazing process and an amazing tool that would be really cool to either recreate or use one day.
Yeah. No, I thought that scan of the office was awesome. Like when you showed it, I was so impressed.
And we've talked about it. As long as we could get it to work on a consistent level, and that if it made sense, especially on like a end user portion of it, like that the UI was working well and we could share, it would be a really awesome thing to be able to offer to clients in the real estate world.
You were able to do some additional scans of things too.
If you guys, if you have the Polycam app, you can actually go on and search either TRIFLIX, or you can actually search Ronin 4D, and we put our Ronin 4D model out there on the their kind of, I don't know what you want, their model sharing community.
Yeah, it made it in like 5 minutes.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it was like
did a good job.
Good enough. Like you could have it in like a rendered scene in like the background and look perfect, and nobody would know.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
I know, it's the crazy stuff that's happening it's just, I don't know, and that's why I have that affinity for the things that James Cameron's doing. It's just he's pushing the envelope. Like, he doesn't have to, but he is.
Yeah,
James and people Cameron are willing to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at him, and
I think I'd give it another watch. I think now, like you said, with the filmmaking goggles, I'd give it another watch.
Maybe that's something we all need to do.
I haven't given it a watch in my adult life, so
yeah.
I think literally the first time I tried to watch it, I was like 10 at Andrew's house, and it was like right after it came out on Blu-ray. And like we fell asleep watching it.
Mine was bootleg, somebody in a movie theater recording it on a handy cam, and then like the white balance is off, and like the pixels are like going crazy, and I was like, I don't see all the hype. This is a weird movie.
This sucks.
But I think I was around that same age whenever like Passion of the Christ came out, which was like another award-winning film. They're not like back-to-back, but like it was around that like I'm young, I don't know what I'm doing age.
Did you see that whole thing where he said he wants to make another movie?
The Bible 2.
The Bible 2.
He says supposedly he wants to make or it might even be in the works, that he's wanting to make a film that's specifically focused on the resurrection only.
That's pretty dope. Mel Gibson is probably the most qualified person to make a film about the Bible.
Okay.
I actually haven't seen that movie, so I don't know how it ends.
Anyways,
spoilers, the main character dies.
What the heck?
Hey, speaking of sequels,
but I hear the sequel, he comes back.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so speaking of sequels, did you I think we had talked about this maybe briefly in office. Did you guys see that they're making a new Indiana Jones?
I did see that. I'm surprised. It has to be somewhat good.
Imby Amba Jones.
Why though? Why does it have to be somewhat good?
Because I feel like Harrison Ford wouldn't have come back.
Dude, he'll come back.
Like, he looked at the script and
But
was
he
like,
did it. He came back in Star Wars.
Yeah, he'll come back for
very
money.
limited though.
No, he'll come back for money.
True, but yes,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know, man.
Dude,
I feel like Indiana Jones is his baby though, and Star Wars wasn't.
But this is the reason why I put it on there. Like, more along the lines of like, are there too many sequels to movies, especially with the nostalgia factor? Like, I've never been into Indiana Jones. I've watched some of the films. I never thought that it was like this thing that I really resonated with for whatever reason.
My dad doesn't like you anymore.
You guys are just hitting up all my little lights today. These are all the topics I was wanting to hit. So
Well, I got you, buddy.
I
I'm here.
got you. So
We were already dialed in and didn't even know it.
dude, we're always synced up.
Yeah, it's like we hang out a lot.
So I totally get the appeal of like movies with the nostalgia factor. It's like how many iterations of
I'm
this thing
losing
can
interest.
you do? The nostalgia factor.
Yes, I'm
So-
like,
Yeah.
can we just do some new
Like,
stuff?
can we? Yeah,
No.
that's what I want. I want
So-
new stories,
New
and new
ideas.
characters. Do something different.
The thing
Yeah.
is, I think the appeal is not the fact that it's the story individual. So one of the things I've been looking into a lot, and one of my obsessions right now, is my wife's never seen Star Wars, which again, the other Harrison Ford series, and it's amazing. However, all the recent movies have kind of blown from many perspectives, from writing, from like the dialogue itself, how it's conveyed, the acting. And it's one of those situations where like Christian Hayden, how do you pronounce his last name? Haydenson?
Is that who?
Yeah.
Oh,
It
you're
just
talking about
sounds
Anakin?
familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anakin. So, like from the
Oh, yeah,
original
yeah.
Star Wars, like the writing was fine-ish. It was pretty bad, and then his performance was, he read the lines as best as he could, but it was just like you just have so many things that go into making a movie. A couple too many bad things, and it's a bad movie, right? The thing that makes sagas interesting to me, especially with Star Wars, is like the grand narrative of how everything is intertwined.
Yep.
And it's not just spoon fed to the point of, oh, this happens, like cause effect. There's a lot of pre-planning of things that happen. And
Do you think there's pre-planning with this new, with the new Star Wars?
well,
No, Feige said it needs to go out now. We own it. Make a new
all
one.
right. I have not watched
Money.
I haven't watched all of them, but essentially
Why are you talking about it?
so
then?
I've seen no. I've seen 2 out of the 3. I saw 2 out of the 3 and I realized
qualified.
no, I saw 2 out of the 3 and I realized I was like, I'm
Which two?
less interested. It was the not the very last
not-
one. That I have not watched
I
that
thought
very
it was funny
last
you watched
one.
the first one and the last one,
No.
and you skipped the middle.
So no, I've watched a lot of Star Wars. My wife has not.
Unforgivable.
It's gotten me really interested in the storyline. I
Okay.
really enjoy learning about the lore, like
Sure.
the main story
Yeah.
where like the source material that leads into the movies.
Yes.
So
Well,
George Lucas writes the original
Mostly.
3, and then he writes the prequels. I never realized as a kid, I just thought cool movie, cool. Big lightsaber fights.
Right.
The amount of writing that he has in the prequel 3 and how they actually overlap, like very intentionally with the original 3, was impressive as I got older because I'm starting to pick up on things.
Agreed.
And then you watch the Clone Wars miniseries on Cartoon Network, which was big enough to publish the animated series in 3D modeling. Really good. A lot of parallels. George Lucas got to oversee those.
yeah.
Disney buys and then they bring in the new ones. Writing, not fan. However, again, George Lucas is involved enough with all of not necessarily Easter eggs.
Was he?
They
If he was minimal amount.
it's a minimal amount. But here's the thing. They like, it's kind of one of those Dan Harmon things where they kind of like leave and then you're like, wow, this show's not very good, and then they bring him back and they're like, it's better, but it would have been great if you just had him there the whole time situations.
Yeah.
The core of Anakin and where he came from is like the whole Mary story from the Bible, and it's like, where's this kid coming from? What's George Lucas doing with this? And then you get Anakin throughout the original saga, and then at the very end of the last movie, because I read the wiki and I didn't watch the movie on it, it was really interesting. They actually wrap full circle over 9 movies where Anakin originates from. And it's like all the stories of like the clones and where they came from. So like, to me, the appeal of these types of movies isn't necessarily the writing or the acting or anything specific. It's just the idea that someone came up with a universe and did world building, and every movie is so closely intertwined that Lord of the Rings does it. I know Indiana Jones does it. Star Wars does it. Marvel does it. Marvel, I think, needs to chill out with it a bit too much, because I feel like a lot of theirs are kind of cash grabs. But whenever, it's George Lucas's baby. So like his investment is, I think, steeper than what Feige's was, because in the Russo brothers, because they're kind of coming in, they're going out, they have a grand vision, but it's not something they wrote themselves from the beginning. They directed from the beginning. Like that's why that has more appeal to me. And I know in a way
Stan's been going for a while, which I think he played a big hand in a lot of that.
Yeah, but like I see that same appeal for a generation that grew up with Indiana Jones being original, and it's like this grand narrative, and I think it has less Easter eggs, but maybe that's just because I'm less familiar with it.
Yeah, I can't speak to it, but I mean, I've seen enough to know.
I love that big world building. I just think that's so cool that someone came up with it. And
I agree. Yeah. I mean, if you break something down to a technicality level, it's like, it is. This thing about Star Wars is amazing, that the forethought that had to have gone into making all of these storylines mixed together. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't see that in Star Wars.
Really?
I see it in the original trilogy, and I see it with the prequels, but not with the sequels. I think the sequels just like a whole bunch of, hey, do you remember Star Wars the entire time? And I feel like they didn't do anything new. They didn't add anything. See, I feel like would have been better off if they didn't make them.
But that's a double-edged sword, right? Because I think some people were probably going, hey, now, like, don't go way off. Like, people are diehard fans of this. Like, don't you dare go way off out in left field, because like,
I would argue that's what they did with the prequels, though. It was completely different. Like, you didn't have barely any of the elements from the original series. Different like races of like aliens, different like society, different
the universe
everything.
With like
it's a
jumping
completely
as far.
different culture, because it was literally like a different government. And
but George Lucas was involved in that. Like, that's what I'm saying. I think Disney's issue, right, is that at the end of the day, like with any of these Marvel, Star Wars, like they're playing it very safe. Because they're like they've dialed in on their demo, and they're like, we know who you are, we know what you want, and we're gonna keep doing the same thing every time.
And maybe that was the difference. The directors, it wasn't their children in a way.
Yeah.
And so,
but see, that's why I like the Thor stuff so much.
Because the prequels explain that, though.
Taika will go push. He will do something weird and do something out there that feels like it's in universe, but then like it's also like very different.
Yeah, and that's what I think of, like the original and the prequels. Is like it's fresh, it's different, but it's the same universe.
Right.
Like it just feels it. Like you don't even have to think about it and like try to like check some things at the door before you go in. And then like the sequels was like, all right, we have to go look at all the other movies and we have to make sure it matches.
Right.
Like you can't do anything like truly like make something new that still fits the book. It just kind of felt like they were copy paste and reskin.
I get that.
And I didn't like that.
That's fair. I disagree. I think it's cool because it's like it's all these elements of like, why was the very first movie of Star Wars is like the fourth one. It's like, what led everything to get to this point, and seeing that progression of the government essentially, and who pulled all the strings and what orchestrated that all the way through, and then finding out like technically the main character who's been pulling the strings from the very first one to the very last one was the same person, and it's like the main bad guy was always the same one. And my biggest drawback of watching the 7th and 8th ones were like, all right, the old bad guy was way cooler, and then you find out the new bad guys were actually just pawns of the main big bad guy the whole time,
right?
And how they bring him back is like super lame. But the idea that it was all this was thought out by George Lucas from the beginning, and then they had the extended universe.
I don't think George Lucas was involved in the sequels.
The final ones.
Yeah, like the most recent ones, I do not think he was really involved at all.
Can we find out?
Let's pull that up, Jamie. I'm pulling it up.
I'm pretty sure they had him as a consultant for all 3 films, but they let him have more of a role in the 3rd one. The 9th one, technically.
I feel like that's not to the level of what you're expecting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
When George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney in 2012, he walked away from any chance of telling more stories set in a galaxy far, far away. Although he had story treatments and ideas of his own, the Star Wars sequel trilogy was ultimately made without his involvement.
Yeah.
0. Dang.
Yeah. No, nothing.
Dang, that's crazy. I definitely didn't think that it was nothing.
Yeah, I thought he was still consulting on the writing. Dang.
I think in the Mandalorian, which is a great series,
Yes.
he was brought on and he was consulting a lot with that.
Huh.
And a lot of the more recent stuff, which has actually been good. I didn't care much for Boba Fett.
We talked about that.
Yeah, but
No
I think
reason
he was
to
brought
continue.
on. But yeah,
Yes. So my wife and I are going to sit through 6 days and 12 hours worth of content over the next 5-10 years, whenever the kid's old enough to
watch all the Star
cry the
Wars.
whole time.
Yeah, no, it's I had to catch up Audrey on all of Marvel. She hadn't seen anything.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
it's a cool experience. What was that for you guys then?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, because she's like, okay, I have interest in this. I've heard you talk about all this stuff, and you won't shut up about it. And you drag me to these movies.
You're weirdly obsessed
so
about
she's
it.
like, I want to see all the things that leading up. And I was like, okay, so we're going to go and we're going to watch them in the universe's chronological order.
I did that. It's a lot of fun doing
It
that.
was awesome. So we go through, we watch everything, and she's like, oh. And I think she watched Endgame with me.
Yeah.
So she saw the end.
Oh, so she didn't get it.
Yeah. So she's like, because I'm like, she's like, what about that person, that person?
Yeah.
I was like, well, let me go back to movie 4.
Oh, dude, that's a horrible way to start with Endgame.
No, I get
Because
it.
you don't get all the character build up. I was gonna watch the all the Star Wars chronologically as well, because
We did that too. It's worth
They don't recommend that for new people, like to watch anything in chronological order, because usually the
It's a little
writing.
jarring in quality.
But if you have someone to sit next to you that's familiar with the source material, you can just be like, you have questions generally.
Yeah.
It helps.
Star Wars, we had both seen all of the movies. That was actually something we were both familiar with. It was just fun to go because they are remastered on Disney Plus, so they look really nice, and so it's kind of fun to go back and look through everything.
You know what the core fundamental that leads all the movies together? Luke and Leia kiss quite a bit, right?
Oh, don't.
You know that?
I don't like where you're going with this.
And
And then-
I'm interested. He's piqued my interest.
And then technically, the big bad guy has 2 great grandkids. One is Ben Skywalker, and the other one is Rey Palpatine. They're cousins, and then they kiss in the movie. So from the very first prequels through the saga all the way to the end, there was always a sliver of incest.
You mentioned Lord of the Rings earlier. I like talking about Lord of the Rings.
There's probably that in there too. I don't know.
It's written from start to finish by the same author, and it's a great book and great movies.
Those are good movies. I haven't seen those in a long time.
Fantastic.
They are pretty.
I like The
darn
Hobbit too,
good.
but they're not nearly as good.
I'll try to
I've been-
rewatch them.
I don't think how many Lord of the Rings were there? 3? Yeah. So I saw all of those, but I haven't seen anything since that.
Yeah. So they did kind of the Star Wars-y thing where the first 3 movies are like the main plot, and then The Hobbit is like the prequel.
Oh, gotcha.
And so The Hobbit leads into the events of Lord of the Rings.
Oh man, if they don't have Elijah Wood in it, I don't want to see it.
I want to see a Cumberbatch on his all fours. Show me
the
Cumberbatch.
CGI footage.
Yeah,
the
Cumberbatch.
track. Have you seen that?
No. I am Schmaug. Dude, it's one of the best.
Weird.
He's a method actor, and he was in Dragon Pose and mocap.
Dude, I love it. It's like watching all the Andy Serkis stuff where he was like the
Gollum.
Yeah, well, that and the wasn't he like
He's everything.
He is. He's anything that he wants to put his face on. No, he was the main like monkey in
Jungle Book.
No, well, I think he might have been in that. I know he was in that as well, but no, the
He's all
Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah, he was there
He
too.
did a lot of the mocap for that.
Huh. I didn't know he was that big into mocap.
Oh, he's like one of the guys that helped invent it all.
Really?
Yeah, like he is the
What?
main 5'4" dude or whatever. I think he's 5'4", but he's like the main guy that plays every role for anything. Like
I think he's had a hand in
want-
developing the technology.
You want 2 people if you're gonna ever make a mocap movie. You want Andy Serkis and then the really tall guy that plays Vision. They both do a lot of mocap and CG work.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
'Cause- They were talking about.
Oh yes, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Because he was like the panther in Jungle Book.
Was he?
They
Yes.
talk about the appeal
I had
though.
no idea.
I'm pretty sure he was one of. I know he's one of them in the Jungle Book, dude.
Yeah.
If you watch that movie, like look at the cast and then watch that movie, and you can see the people's faces in the animals.
Oh, I haven't seen the new
Furries galore.
Dude, it was weird
Stuff.
because they talk about it in the BTS. They talk about the fact that they wanted. They knew that like doing the mocap right, like we have a different skeletal structure of compared to animals, of course, but they like mixed the two. Like these animals have human features to them.
They just use the blend shape feature in Blender.
I guess, right? But they were like, we're gonna make it look like this, and it was a design choice, right?
Yeah.
And I get why they did it. It's a little uncanny valley-ish, kind of.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a
But
movie
you can,
Cats.
but you can, yes.
Oh.
I've never seen it,
It's
but
one
I
of my
saw
favorites.
enough. Saw enough of the trailers.
Yeah.
But
James Corden.
I just
Really-
recently, my nephew was over for Thanksgiving, and they had Tarzan original. Did they redo Tarzan yet?
no,
Have they
thank
ruined it?
goodness. If they ruin that movie, I swear
Yeah.
it's the one. As
Yeah.
long as they bring it, if they bring Phil Collins back and he does more music stuff, I'll be happy.
They'll probably get like Kanye.
I don't think. Well, historically, Disney probably would have at one point worked with Kanye based on what he said recently. I don't think they would anymore.
But
Jamie, whatever. What time are we at? How are we
Jade,
doing here?
We are.
How we
hour
doing?
35 minutes in.
Sweet. Do you want to talk about Eufy at all? We still need to talk about the weekly tip, but do you want to
We talked about Eufy last week, but one of the things that
explain what it is before we-
transpired out of this whole event. So
What happened?
There's a company that sells offline cloudless home security, which means
Stays
it's
local.
all local. Local and safe for your whole family. And the idea of
no
local,
data leaves your house.
Yeah.
when
Or
you
so
record
we thought.
something, it's supposed to be local. The idea is that you can smash the little box that everything records to, and all your data's gone. You just smash
Yeah.
the little box, all your hard drives
It's in your
gone.
house. Stays in your
That's
house?
not the case. They lied, and this whole time they've been backing stuff up the cloud with or without your permission. Entirely without, because nobody even knew. And they said it was for notifications. That wasn't the case. You could delete your account, but the footage was still going up. Like it's a whole big ordeal.
No.
But
It's
one of
not
the things
good.
that transpired out of this whole event was more information came out where whenever they do face tracking, maybe you're familiar, like you have a Google little doorbell or something, or Eufy home security, you can identify a person out of repetition. It learns who David's face is and Cole's face and my face. You are assigned an ID number. Makes sense because the computers use ones and zeros and not faces.
They're not going to say David's face.
Yeah.
Oh, we know David.
So you're given a unique David's faces 0140
like that
0140 and your ID is unique to you, but not just for that single home. That ID is unique to you throughout their whole system. So all Eufy cameras and all Anker brand things have 0140s tied to your face. So anywhere in the world you go, that same
That's
ID is
you.
tied to your face, whether that's in
Eufy.
America, whether that's in Asia, whether that's in Europe, it doesn't matter. And it's owned by a Chinese company. The company, all information goes to the great overseers of Chinese companies, the government. So now,
The government.
I don't really care too much about personal privacy in some veins.
We have wise
However, if a company is going to promise
ID
one
you.
thing and then lie to you, and then on top of that, they're going to ID you, make it leakable, and then, or at least, I don't want to say hackable, but like it was relatively easy for people to access this information, and then they can track you anywhere you go,
No.
anywhere their cameras are.
Yeah,
And it's
Tristan leaves his house, comes to my house. I have the same cameras as him. He comes in my house, and his ID on his face is the same.
it's insane.
It's creepy.
But like it's less to do with like privacy to me, and it has more to do with security of like it's a security risk for this information to be leaked, because not only it's like if they wanted to find out if you're home or not, like they can access your cameras online, and that's not traditionally how home security should work in the first place. There's one security risk. The other one is your ID is tracked to a location, so if you ever left the state and somebody had access or left the country and somebody has access to this information of IDs, they know where you were most recently seen. So it's like there's just a laundry list of really bad business practices aside from just lying. Like it's just poorly implemented across the board. So I just couldn't believe the what is it called whenever you don't manage your responsibilities appropriately, like your
carelessness.
Yeah, just like the reckless carelessness
negligence.
of it. The negligence, that's what it is. Like just the lack of care for the people that buy your product.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I mean, I think we've seen it across the board. I think a lot of stuff, it's like we need to get from point A to point B, and that might be whatever it might be, right? I don't know. Whatever feature it is that they're trying to do. And it's just like the shortest, easiest method is what they use.
Or what they know.
And that usually is the least of the secures. I mean, it's like, look at us now. Like, think about everything from the past on the internet when it comes to communication. So let's just talk about specifically instant messaging, right? How in the world is it now, right? Decades later that we're now just figuring out how to encrypt from both ends to make sure our chats are private.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
why was that an afterthought?
The internet was not designed to be security proof. It was designed to make it as easy as possible for them to connect another computer to another, because they weren't thinking about, somebody in like Los Angeles wants to connect to my computer in New York. They're like, no, I want to connect to that computer in the other room in this building. Like, I want to do that in like 10 weeks, and they did it, and they didn't think about it, because how could they have known this would have happened?
Well, an SSL hasn't been a requirement for how long, right? I mean,
do what?
SSL, right?
Oh yeah.
That's been something that's been short-lived.
And so we're putting these things on top of it, and that's
hey man, Web3.
That's the blockchain. It's all on the blockchain.
I think the big like issue with this isn't necessarily that the company's nefarious. Like, I'm not saying that they had ill intentions. I think a lot of times ignorance and like nefarious, like malicious intent often like get conflated. I think they're just dumb, just real lazy, because
it's really easy because most of this stuff like set up that's like set up so it's really easy to do that stuff.
Yeah,
because everybody wants to be able to do it and like easily like have a notification go up. And so the common standard is to do like, all right, you upload it to a thing on a server, then somebody can access it later. Boom. That's a thing. A million other stuff services use day to day.
Yep.
And that's the common practice, and they're like, oh, beep, boop, we're going to do that too, and so didn't even.
Do you think that they bore, like they burden themselves with the additional cost of like to store cloud data? They have on their end to pay for storage and bandwidth for that data to come in and out of their facility.
Yeah, right.
And they're taking on that burden for it to leave your house to go to the internet, and instead of coming directly to you, it's going to them, processing, transmitting to you. Like, that's an additional cost. Like, it's hard for me not to think
to do it though, because everything is doing it.
Yeah.
And so it actually costs more for them to figure out the infrastructure and set it up in the way that they're actually trying to sell you to it as.
Yeah.
And so
plus like the consistency and stuff.
It's not even malicious intent. It's like, what's the cheapest option?
Yeah.
And they chose the cheapest option.
And it's usually at the expense of your security.
And it's easier
data
to maintain for them to do it. So like, it's just pure like, they didn't do it because it would have been more work.
My favorite thing though is always like, did they think it was going to last forever without anybody figured it out?
Well, maybe if they actually properly encrypted end to end, it would have been. But the thing was, people were intercepting the information halfway through or even on their servers, and it wasn't encrypted. Yeah. So then people could access it. If they did that, then you would have noticed your bandwidth going up whenever you use certain products, but that would have been... It wouldn't have been as easy to identify.
But people have more time and knowledge to be able to figure these things out. Nothing's safe.
And that's the frustration. Is a lot of people are like,
it's not if, it's when.
The only way that you can have actually local home security is to have some basic knowledge of networking and home security in general, routing all your cables and stuff, and like
put it together yourself,
setting it up yourself. Like, that's the only way anymore.
Yeah. Somebody told me when I was in Boy Scouts, he was like teaching us like the computer's merit badge, and he said, what's the safest computer? It's one that's not connected to the internet, one that's not in your home, one that's encased in a block of concrete at the bottom of the ocean because nobody can get to it, and all that data will be completely safe from everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's true, though.
To make your computer safe, you have to make it so not even you can get to it. Because if you can get to it, somebody else can, which is a scary thought.
It is. And, I mean, if we make trade-offs every day to be able to serve convenience.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can access my stuff from wherever. If a package gets left on my front door, it knows what it is, and it literally says there's a package left by somebody. And it even tells me when someone picks it up. When my wife gets home, it says Audrey's at the front door. Like, it does all those things. Shoot, I've trained it on the FedEx people and the UPS people.
It knows which one.
It'll say UPS is here.
Oh,
FedEx is
that's
here.
Weird.
It cracks.
Oh, that's weird.
Specifically UPS because
it's like on the faces, or does it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that or not.
It gave me the option, right? It's like, who is this? And I was like, oh, well, that's my UPS guy. It's kind of nice.
What if the UPS guy also works at like FedEx or something, like part-time both sides, and you're like, FedEx man dropped it off and it was UPS.
It's like, wait a second. I'm so confused. But I get it. There's trade-offs with all of it. And I think this is more of just we want to air it in the public service announcement to a certain degree. These things are on the internet for you to find, but it's not always very well, portrayed to the public. So something to think about. We got one more thing we're going to talk about tonight, guys, and we're going to make it pretty quick. The weekly tip. We're actually foregoing. We knew we'd have a good long conversation today, so we're foregoing our normal fun game segment. Promise you, we'll be back in the next episode.
I had fun without it.
Yeah, we had a lot of good things to talk about today. So the last thing we did our weekly tip. And just got it's been released. And we talked about setting up Chrome profiles.
Oh, I've been using those for a while.
You and me both, buddy.
Yeah, they're great.
This is a funny thing. Tristan was unaware or forgot about this.
He's been retrained on them.
Never knew. Actually, every time you open Chrome, it asks you, do you want to select a profile? And I always got annoyed by it, and I did X. And then I would do just new window because I didn't understand what any of it was.
So for those of you that haven't seen the video and are maybe interested in what we're talking about, again, we had an issue with Tristan. I actually taught my dad how to use this over Thanksgiving break because, again, he was having issues juggling all his Gmail accounts. So Chrome makes it super easy. You can actually, what they do is it's adding a profile. And so when you add this profile, your Gmail account and that profile are tied together. So as soon as you add this, now you have, essentially a separate person or profile that you set up. You click on the little icon in the top right-hand corner. It's like you can make it your face, whatever your Gmail account icon is.
Right.
You click on that and you can switch between the two. And when you switch, it opens up a new Chrome window. And everything that you do within that window is now linked to that account.
So nice, like history. So I try to use my TRIFLIX account for browsing and like doing TRIFLIX searches. So if I know I was working on something like a couple weeks ago and it's TRIFLIX related, I can just go to that profile and I can find it a lot faster.
Yep. So all of your bookmarks, your history, your favorites, all the things are synced between devices as long as it's on that account.
Yep.
So it just makes the process super easy when you're trying to juggle because everything that we use is Gmail. So I have about 4 or 5 different profiles.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like I got my TRIFLIX one, and all I have to do is click on the profile. It pulls up my TRIFLIX. It remembers everything that I do, and it's logged into my email and Dropbox and all the things that I need on a day-to-day basis.
I give them. You can give them different colors for the themes too. And so I have my TRIFLIX one is orange, my personal one's blue, my business one's like a purple color. And so just even when I have a window open, I know what I'm looking at. Yeah. I don't have to think about like which one am I logged in? Like blue, it's mine.
And see,
I'm on the blue one.
I assumed this was just general public knowledge, and it's not. And the reason I wanted to share this week is because, again, it was top of mind, but like share this with a loved one that might have the issue. Yeah. When I was able to teach my dad, he then took that and taught it to a lot of people in his office, and it will continue on because everybody's like, oh, I've just been like logging in and out of this account. Oh, yeah. Then it's a pain. So it's a fun, it's an easy little hack, and they explain how to use it. If you just look up, how to enable Chrome profiles online, you could find it. They'll explain it to you. As long as the browser is a Chrome-based browser. So I believe, don't quote me, I'm pretty sure it works on Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, I've seen other ones adopt it now too because it's just that great.
Yep. So it works on Microsoft Edge. I use Brave browser, which is also built on Chrome. Profiles work on that as well. It's all very similar, and it just syncs all your information. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully that's easy for you.
How's your experience been, Tristan?
I use it every day on Brave. Although Brave's, they've been introducing ads. You hear about that?
No.
Ads?
Yeah,
How?
they've been introducing ads.
Did you get an ad?
No, it's like instead of getting externally, like how Google, everybody can. They vet out all the Google listing ones.
Right.
You can pay them to get your stuff sponsored towards the top, allegedly. This was something that just came out within the last week and a half. Basically, they'll vet which ads are safe enough to come on the platform, but they make most of their money off of their crypto wallet stuff.
Yes.
But that was a way to supplement. Allegedly. I'll look more into it, but
okay.
Follow up next time.
Yeah, there's a lot of different browsers that you can use, and we've been messing with different ones because Chrome is very resource intensive. It uses a lot of RAM, a lot of memory, and we need that for our programs. So we've been playing around with different stuff. So I don't know if you're interested in what Brave is or maybe other browsers. Feel free to leave us a comment or shoot us an email or something. So. That's all we got for today. So, as usual, we appreciate you stopping by, watching the show, or listening to the show. The video is actually available on Facebook and YouTube, so check that out. We're posting a lot of clips and a lot of fun stuff, so pay attention to that. A lot of fun stuff. It makes you want to watch it, hopefully, because if you're not watching, you're missing out. I get it. The audio quality is fantastic. We're killing the game here, but you got to see our fun faces.
You got to look at us and tell us which sweater you think was best.
Oh yeah, sorry. I know we've done the whole episode and never addressed the sweaters. Everybody's wearing Christmas sweaters today.
Mine's Darth Vader.
Ironically enough.
Yeah. I'll put it on you for a second. Check it out.
I'm Darth Vader.
That's not what a camera is. But, mine is Snoopy from Peanuts.
Yeah, so I think our goal is to try throughout the month of December, we're going to wear sweaters on every episode. Okay. So whether we switch or not, I don't know yet. But we will have our Christmas sweaters on, and because it's the season. Season. Yeah, this was it, guys. We appreciate you stopping by and watching everything, and go follow us on all the on all the channels and the YouTube and the Instagrams and the Facebooks.
The links are in the doobly-doo.
Yes, they are in the doobly-doo.
I can confirm Brave Day views privacy preserving ads in its search engine. Have a good day.